We live in the most comfortable era in human history. Most of us have flat-screen TVs, groceries delivered to our doors, and infinite entertainment in our pockets. Yet every day, we are bombarded with messages telling us to be richer, faster, sexier, and endlessly happy. But despite this overwhelming comfort and the constant push for perfection, stress-related health issues, anxiety disorders, and depression have skyrocketed over the past 30 years. This brings us to a psychological trap known as the feedback loop from hell. Our culture has bred a generation that believes having negative experiences, like fear, guilt, or anxiety, is totally unacceptable. Here is how it traps you. You get anxious about confronting someone in your life. Then you start wondering why you're so anxious. Suddenly, you are anxious about being anxious. You feel like a loser for feeling bad, which makes you feel even worse. Our cultural fixation on staying positive and avoiding negative feelings isn't making us better. It is actually the very mechanism driving our collective misery. In the mid-20th century, the philosopher Alan Watts pinpointed exactly why this happens through an idea he called the backwards law. This diagram illustrates Watts's counterintuitive concept. The loop on the left shows how the pursuit of a positive experience is, in itself, a negative experience. But if we follow the loop on the right, we see the inverse. The acceptance of a negative experience actually produces a positive experience. To see how this works in practice, look at what happens when you apply this to money. The more you desperately want to be rich, the more poor and unworthy you feel, regardless of how much money you actually make. The desire simply highlights exactly what you lack. The endless pursuit of a pain-free, perfectly happy life guarantees that you will never actually be satisfied. Chasing the positive is what destroys our psychological well-being. We suffer for a very simple reason. Suffering is biologically useful. Human beings actually evolve to live with a certain degree of dissatisfaction and insecurity, because a mildly dissatisfied creature is the one motivated enough to innovate and survive. Pain is a feature, not a bug. Take physical pain, like stubbing your toe. As much as we hate that throbbing sensation, these rapid electrical signals firing to our brains act as a critical feedback mechanism. They teach us our physical limits so we don't accidentally destroy our own bodies. Research shows that our brains barely register a difference between that physical pain and psychological pain. A broken heart or a massive public failure activates the exact same alarm systems. Feelings of rejection, sadness, or anxiety are simply biological signals indicating that something in your life is out of equilibrium. They are a call to action, pushing you to change behavior and avoid making the same mistakes again. When we culturally coddle ourselves and attempt to numb out every ounce of psychological discomfort, we sever our connection to reality. We destroy the vital internal feedback mechanisms required to learn, grow, and survive. About 2,500 years ago, a king in the Himalayan foothills decided to run a drastic experiment on his son, a prince who would later become the Buddha. The king built high walls around his palace to ensure the child would never experience a single moment of suffering. The prince was bathed in endless luxury, with every need met and every pain blocked from his reality. Yet, as a young man, the prince was completely miserable. Every experience felt empty and valueless. He had absolutely zero suffering, but his life held no meaning. He eventually snuck out of the palace, encountered human suffering for first time, and came to a profound realization. Problems never cease. A billionaire has money problems, and a person living on the street has money problems. The billionaire just has slightly better money problems. Because problems are an inescapable constant of human existence, happiness does not come from lacking problems. True, consistent happiness comes from the active process of solving them. If pain is inevitable, then our entire approach to life is flawed. The question we should be asking isn't, how do I stop suffering? The real question is, why am I suffering, and for what purpose? To see how drastically purpose changes our experience of pain, think about running a 26-mile marathon. Imagine someone puts a gun to your head and forces you to run those miles against your will. That would be one of the most agonizing, traumatizing experiences of your entire life. Now imagine you bought the right shoes, trained religiously for months, and chose to run those exact same miles on your own terms. Crossing that finish line would be a glorious, crowning achievement. The physical pain pulsing through your legs in both scenarios is exactly the same. The only difference between crippling trauma and immense personal power is agency. You chose the struggle. We all know how to answer the easy question. What do I want to enjoy? Everyone wants to feel good. The harder, far more interesting question you need to ask yourself is, what pain do I want to sustain? If you want an amazing physique, you have to actively desire the physical stress and sweat of the gym. If you want a successful business, you have to invite the pain of risk, insane hours, and repeated failures. This is not about white-knuckling your way through life with sheer willpower or getting lucky. Who you are is ultimately defined by the specific burdens you are willing to carry. So true freedom is not about a psychopathic indifference to everything. It is about actively choosing your values. It means having the wisdom to look at a chaotic world, giving fewer fucks about the superficial noise, and reserving your limited energy for the meaningful struggles that are actually worth suffering for.